What does this, and this have in common? It shouldn't come as a big surprise that the real story of Pocahontas is not the fairy tale that Disney would have us all believe, but in reality a tragic yarn of abduction, addiction, and cultural genocide. More importantly, the legacy of this continues to be played out today through the lens of corporate colonialism. The tale of Pocahontas arguably started here in the tiny village of Heacham in northwest Norfolk with the delivery of John Rolfe, who was born into a wealthy merchant family at Heacham Hall. According to official records, he was baptised in the parish church of St Mary in May 1585. Heacham Hall has since burnt down, but is survived by a hotel restaurant boasting a 400-year-old mulberry tree, which according to local law was planted by none other than Pocahontas herself. She is said to have brought the tree, or sapling, with her husband John Rolfe during a visit here in 1616. The couple had married 2 years earlier and came in tow with their baby son Thomas. Rolfe had been sponsored by the Virginia Company, which founded the Jamestown colony in 1607 under the leadership of English explorer and soldier John Smith. Smith was born in Norfolk's neighbouring county of Lincolnshire and would probably have met Rolfe at the busy port of King's Lynn, which borders the two counties. Smith met the 11-year-old Pocahontas late in 1607 after being captured by local warriors who he mistakenly thought were going to kill him during what was probably an initiation rite. During her youth, Pocahontas frequently visited the Jamestown colony on behalf of her father, who was chief of the Powhatan tribe. She sometimes brought food to the half-starved community, and these ambassadorial visits were designed to encourage peace and goodwill. 2 years after Smith's arrival, John Rolfe and 150 other settlers boarded a vessel named the Sea Venture with a plan to inject new blood and fresh ideas into the famished community, which was on the brink of collapse. En route, Rolfe's ship was wrecked in a storm, and his first wife and newly born daughter subsequently died in Bermuda. Rolfe and his compatriots continued their journey to Jamestown, where in 1609 he successfully began trialling a new type of tobacco seed that he'd picked up in the West Indies. The native Virginia tobacco had been unpopular in England, but Rolfe's much sweeter Orinoco variety proved an addictive nicotine hit and generated a money-spinning cash crop that helped stabilise the colony's economy, thereby ensuring its long-term growth and survival. 4 years later, in 1613, after a series of skirmishes, Pocahontas was ensnared on an English ship and taken hostage. During her imprisonment, for that's what it was, she was converted to Christianity, baptised, and renamed Rebecca. Some say she was abused and raped, but others contend her conversion to Christianity during imprisonment was willingly undertaken. In any case, the widower John Rolfe caught her eye and they married in April 1614. It may not have been love at first sight, but a marriage of convenience, framed as a condition for her release from prison and an end to the conflict. 2 years later, they had a son named Thomas, and a year after that, in June 1616, the family was sponsored by the Virginia Company to visit England with a plan to raise further financial support for the still struggling Jamestown colony. During her stay in England, she was presented to the royal court, met the King and Queen, and was welcomed as a princess celebrity. It was at this time that the Rolfe family visited John's ancestral home in Heacham Hall, North Norfolk, where they planted the famous mulberry tree. To some extent, the tree represents a symbol of the peace deal between the Powhatan and English cultures, an allegory that chimes with Pocahontas' real birth name, which was Matawaka, or flower between two streams, she being the flower, the streams being the two civilizations. Pocahontas was her nickname, which meant playful one. In March 1617, while preparing to return to Virginia, she fell fatally ill, dying at the tender age of 21. She was buried in Gravesend, England, where a statue of her now stands. 5 years later, John Rolfe was killed during an Indian massacre. The couple were thankfully survived by their son Thomas, who had been left in England. He returned to Jamestown in 1635, where his descendants thrived, producing many prominent US families, including the wives of Woodrow Wilson and Ronald Reagan, as well as present-day actor Edward Norton. But just as the Jamestown colony grew and prospered, so the clouds gathered for the Powhatan people, who were ultimately decimated by disease and warfare. Their final defeat came in 1646, when they were forced to sign treaties severely restricting their way of life. The Powhatans subsequently merged with other tribes and ultimately lost their identity, though some descendants claim to still have connections with their ancestry. In stark contrast, the legacy of corporate colonialism remains as conspicuous today as it ever was. Although America gained independence in 1776, it inherited many of the structural ambitions associated with corporate colonialism. To some extent, it's possible to trace the lines of this medieval, resource-driven addiction that began with tobacco to the conflict-fueled addiction to oil, which still plays a fundamental role in America's outstanding economic growth, and with that, its ascent to become the most powerful nation on earth. The craving for black gold is currently being played out in Venezuela, where, no surprise, the world's largest oil reserves can be found, mostly located in the Orinoco Belt. Apart from being one of the longest South American rivers, Orinoco is coincidentally the same name used for the highly lucrative variety of tobacco that Rolfe cultivated some 400 years earlier. In the same way Pocahontas and Rolfe were championed by the Virginia Company to spearhead the advance into America, Venezuela's head of government opposition, Maria Machado, is indirectly supported by US corporate interests, who will be salivating over a prospective privatization of the country's oil industry. In true colonial style, the US Navy's largest aircraft carrier arrived in the Caribbean on November 16, 2025, joining many other warships, a nuclear submarine and fighter aircraft. On the pretext of fighting terrorism, US forces are poised to escalate pressure, having already carried out 21 strikes that human rights activists say have flouted international law. The tale is not of love's sweet grace, but of a stolen Powhatan place. From Heacham's shores John Rolfe did sail, his Orinoco weed would soon prevail. Young Matawaka captured, renamed, a marriage for a peace proclaimed. A mulberry tree in England grows, while her true culture met its close. The oil now, where tobacco led, the same colonial thirst is fed. Orinoco's modern prize, as another native spirit dies.